left off yesterday on project. So Ivan was working on a project that we weren't quite sure about yet. Ivan, Ruby asks one morning when I'm trying to nap, why are you always so sleepy during the day? I've been working on a project at night, I tell her. What's a project? Oh, it's a thing, a painting. It's a painting for you, actually, I answer. Ruby looks pleased. Can I see it? No, not yet. Ruby pokes with annoyance at her rope foot. She takes a breath. Ivan, do I have to do the shows with Mac today? I'm afraid so, Ruby. Ruby dips her trunk in the water bucket. That's okay. I already knew the answer. Next chapter's called Not Right. It's nighttime again and everyone's asleep. I look at the picture I've just made, one of dozens of pictures. It's smudged and torn in a muddy blur. I place it out beside the others lining my floor. The colors are wrong, the shapes are off, it looks like nothing. It's not what I'm trying to create. It's not what it's meant to be. It's not right, and I don't know why. Across the parking lot, the billboard beckons as it always does. The billboard says, come to the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan, the mighty Silverback. If I could use human words to say what I needed to say, this would be so easy. Instead, I have my pots of paint and my ragged pages. I sigh. My fingertips glow like jungle flowers, and I try again. The next chapter's called Going Nowhere. I watch Ruby plod along the ring in endless circles, going nowhere. More visitors have been coming, but not many. Max says Ruby's not picking up all the slack after all. He says he's cutting back on her food. He says he's turning off the heat at night to save money. Ruby looks thinner to me, more wrinkled than Stella ever was. Do you think Ruby's eating enough? I ask Bob. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing, though. You're sure as heck painting enough. Bob wrinkles his nose. That stench is unbelievable. And I found yellow paint in my tail this morning. Bob is not happy about my painting at night. He says it's unnatural. Now, while I work on my art, Bob sleeps on Knot Tag. He claims he prefers her because she doesn't snore. He says her belly doesn't rise and fall and make him seasick either. What if this plan of yours, anyways, he asks. If you explain it to me, I could help you out. He gnaws at his tail. Maybe I could come up with something that doesn't involve, paint. I can't explain it, I tell him. It's an idea in my head, but I can't get it right. And anyway, I'm almost out of supplies. I should have known I wouldn't have enough. I kick my tire swing. It's splattered with drops of blue paint. It's a stupid idea anyways. I doubt that, Bob says. Smelly, yes. Stupid, never. Next chapter's called Bad Guys. Most of the day, I doze. Late afternoon, Mac approaches. Bob slips under Knot Tag. He prefers to keep a low profile around Mac. Mac's gaze falls on my pool. A corner of one of the paintings is visible. What's this, big guy? He asks. I calmly eat an orange, ignoring him, but inside, my heart is racing. Mac kicks at the plastic pool, and underneath it are paintings. Mac yanks on a piece of paper. It slips out easily, and he doesn't seem to notice all the other paintings. The page is striped with green, which happens when blue paint and yellow paint get mixed together. It's supposed to be a patch of grass. Not bad. Where'd you get the paint at, big guy? George's kid? He considers. I bet I could get $30 for this picture. Maybe even 40. Mac turns on my TV. It's a Western. There's a human with a big hat and a small gun. He has a shiny star on his chest. That means he's a sheriff, and he'll be getting rid of all the bad guys. If this sells quick, I'm getting you some more of that paint, buddy, Mac says. He walks away with my painting and Ruby's painting. For a moment, I imagine what it would feel like to be the sheriff. They just have a little picture of a little sheriff badge. Hey, Miss Allie. Next chapter's called Ad. Good news, huh? Bob says when Mac's out of earshot. Looks like you might be getting more supplies. I don't want to paint for Mac. I say I'm painting for Ruby. You could do both, Bob says. You're an artist after all. While I watch the movie, I try to come up with a new hiding place for my paintings. Maybe I think I could fold them up when they're dry and I could stuff them inside Knot Tag. It's a long movie, and at the end, the sheriff marries the woman who owns a saloon, which is a watering hole for humans, not for horses. It's been a long time since I've seen a Western that was also a romance. I like that movie, Bob says. Too many horses, not enough dogs, he says in the back. An ad comes on. I don't understand advertisements. They're not like westerns where you know who the bad guy's supposed to be, and they're hardly ever romantic unless the man and woman are brushing their teeth before they face lick each other. I watch the ad for the underarm deodorant. How do you know who they are if they don't smell? I ask Bob. Think about it. Animals all sniff each other to know who they are, so they're worried if they use deodorant, they won't know who each other are. Humans reek, Bob says. They just don't notice it because they have incompetent little noses. Another ad comes on. I see children and their parents buying tickets, just like the tickets that Mac sells. They laugh and they enjoy ice cream as they walk down a path. They pause to watch two sleepy-eyed cats, huge and striped, dozing in the long grass. Tigers. I know because I saw them on a nature show one time. Words flash on the screen, accompanied by a drawing of a red giraffe. The giraffe vanishes, and I see a human family staring at another kind of family. Elephants. Old and young elephants. They're surrounded by rocks and trees and grass, and they have room to wander. It's a wild cage. A zoo. I see where it begins and where it ends, and the wall that says they are this and we are that, and this is how it will always be. It's not a perfect place. Even if just a few fleeting seconds on my TV screen, I could see that. A perfect place would not need walls. But this is the place that I had in mind. I gaze at the elephants, and then I look over at Ruby, small and alone. And before the ad ends, I try to remember every last detail. Rocks and trees and tails and trunks. It's the picture I need to paint. Next chapter is called Imagining. It's different now when I paint. I'm not painting what I see in front of me, a banana, an apple. I'm painting what I see in my head, things that don't exist. At least, not yet. So, any idea as to what Ivan's plan is? We're not done reading yet, but I want to get your ideas. Joss, what do you think Ivan's plan might be so far? Any guesses? Izzy, what do you think?
I don't know.
You don't know, Joss? Izzy, what are you thinking?
I think that he's going to try to get Ruby to be in a zoo.
So why would his painting try and get Ruby in a zoo?
Probably to be with more elephants.
Okay. Kira, what are you thinking?
To, like, remind her of, like, her family and stuff.
Okay, so maybe he's painting a picture to remind her. Allie, you have any thoughts? No? Our next chapter is called Not Tag. And remember at the beginning of the book, Not Tag was his stuffed gorilla? That he says his sister's name was Tag, and this is not his sister, so it's Not Tag, his stuffed animal. I pulled out all of Not Tag's stuffing, and carefully I filled her with my paintings. I hid them so Mac wouldn't sell them. She's large, bigger than Bob, but I still have to crumple a few of my paintings up. Bob tries to settle on her for a nap. You killed her, he complains. I had to, I say. I miss your stomach, Bob admits. It's so spacious. And that's a nice way of calling someone fat. You have a spacious stomach. When Julia arrives, she notices that I've used up my paints and paper. Wow, Julia shakes her head. You're a serious artist, Ivan. Next chapter's called One More Thing. My finger painting sold for $40 with a frame. Mac is happy, and he brings me a huge pile of paper and big buckets of paint. Get to work, he says. I paint for Mac during the day and for Ruby at night, and I nap whenever I can. So here's Ivan, and there's all of his paintings. Be kind of cool to see a picture or a gorilla painting in real life. But my nighttime picture isn't quite right yet. It's big, that's for sure. When I place all the pieces on the floor of my cage side by side of the cement, it's almost completely covered. But something is still missing. Bob says I'm crazy. There's Ruby, he says, pointing with his nose. There's the zoo. There's the other elephants. What's wrong with it? It needs one more thing, I say. Bob groans. You're being a temperamental artist. But what could be missing? And we see little Ruby sleeping. She's just a cute baby elephant. I stare at the huge expanse of colors and shapes. I don't know how to explain it to Bob. It's not done yet. Just have to wait, I say. Something will come to me, and I'll know my painting when it's finally ready. The next chapter is called The 7 o'clock Show. During the last show of the day, Ruby seems tired. When she stumbles, Mac reaches for the claw stick. I tense, waiting for Ruby to strike back. But Ruby doesn't flinch. She just keeps plodding along. And after a while, Snickers jumps onto her back. The next chapter is called 12. I lay in my cage with Bob on my stomach. We're watching Julia do her homework. She doesn't seem to be enjoying it. I can tell because she's sighing more than normal. Again, for the 100th time, or maybe the 1000th, I wonder what is missing from my painting. And for the 100th time, or maybe the 1000th, I don't have an answer. Dad, Julia says as George passes by with the mop, can I ask you a question? May I? George corrects her. Ask away. Julia glances down at a piece of paper. What's the difference between the word Principal and when I spell the word Principle? So she spells the word principal 2 different ways. Well, the first one is the head of the school, like Mr. McDonald. And the second one is a belief that helps you know what's right or wrong. He smiles. For example, it's against my principle for my daughter to do my daughter's homework for her. Julia groans. If I'm going to be an artist when I grow up, why do I need to know how to spell? With a laugh, George heads off. Poor Julia, I think. Gorillas get by just fine without learning how to spell. All those endless letters, those sticks, the circles, the zigzags, they fill up books and magazines and billboards and candy wrappers. Words! Humans just love their words. I jump up. Bob goes flying straight into my pool. A word! You know how I feel about getting my feet wet, Bob yells. He scrambles out of the water, shaking each foot with dismay. I look out my window at the billboard. I can still hear Mac's voice in my head. Come to the Exit 8, Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan, Mighty Silverback. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then I count again, just to be sure. What do you think he was counting to 12 for? Kira, what do you think? Wait, unmute yourself.
How many words are in the thing? Like, come to the big top.
Okay, so I'll read. You guys count to 12 and tell me where he lands on 12. Come to the Exit 8, Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. Home. Which word did he land on for 12?
Home.
Home. The next chapter is called H. It's the letter H. I lay out 16 pieces of poster board, 4 down and 4 across, a perfect square. What are you up to, Bob says. I'm guessing it doesn't involve sleep. It has to do with the billboard, I say. That sign is an ugly monstrosity, particularly since I'm not on it, Bob says. I grab a bucket of red paint. You're not on the billboard because you're not on the show, I point out. Technically, I don't even live here, Bob says with a sniff. I'm homeless, by choice. I know, I'm just saying. I study the billboard, and then I make 2 fat lines, like broom handles, and another fat line that connects them. I stand back. What do you think? I ask. What is it? No, wait, let me guess. It's a ladder, Bob says. It's not a ladder, I say. It's a letter. At least, I think that's what they're called. I have to make 3 more. Bob cuddles up next to Knot Tag. Why? He asks, yawning. Because then I'll have a word. A very important word. I dip my finger in the paint. What word? Bob asks. Home. Bob closes his eyes. But that's not so important, he says quietly. I'll read one more chapter today. It's called Nervous. All day long, I knuckle walk in circles around my cage. I'm so nervous. I can't nap. I can't even eat. Well, I can't eat very much anyways. I'm ready to show Julia what I've made. It has to be Julia. She's an artist. Surely she will look truly at my paintings. She won't even notice the smudges or the tears, and she won't care if the pieces don't fit together quite right. She'll see past all that. Surely Julia will see what I've imagined. I watch Ruby trudge sullenly through the 4 o'clock show, and I wonder, what will happen if I fail? What if I can't make Julia understand? But of course I know the answer. Nothing. Nothing will happen. Ruby will remain the main attraction at the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, conveniently located off of I-95, with shows at 2, 4, and 7, 365 days a year. Year after year after year. And tomorrow we will find out what happens when he shows Julia, because our next chapter is called Showing Julia.